covered by the Chargers. Touchdown, UCLA.
With USC great and NFL stud, Frosty Rucker.
The Trojans back in front.
And LAFB founder Ryan Dyrud on the Believe Podcast Network and LAFBnetwork.com. This is your destination for Los Angeles football.
What's going on, Los Angeles, and welcome into the LA Football Show. I'm your host, Ryan Dyrud. We are live on AM 1090, The Mightier, always on LAFB Network, the LAFB Network YouTube page, and anywhere you get your podcasts. A very Merry Christmas Eve to everyone out there. Hopefully work finished early for you, or you didn't have to work at all. But for those of you who did work, hopefully now you are done. You can enjoy the evening with your family and, enjoy Christmas Day tomorrow, as it is my favorite holiday. And this holiday season in general is just great to reflect back on the year and realize how much good we have among all the craziness in this world. I think there's a lot of good things to be thankful for. And the holiday season, I think, is a good time to reflect on that and then learn how to better ourselves for the next year. So very Merry Christmas to all of you out there. Thank you for tuning in, making the LA Football Show part of your day. Still got a lot to talk about. So we got a jam-packed show for you today. My good friend, one of my oldest friends, Mike Wise, he's a Vikings fan. We're going to do a little fan segment as we preview the Rams and Vikings to start the show. Then at the bottom of the hour, I'm going to be joined by James of Texans Unfiltered, the #1 Texans podcast, and he's going to join me to preview the Chargers Texans game. And then make sure to stay tuned till the end of the show, where we will have the Dyrud Dozen, my top 12 top Christmas movies. I've been teasing it for a while, so looking forward to it. Show is brought to you by our friends at Golden Road Brewery. They got a great event going on Sunday for you Rams fans. If you go to the Atwater Village Pub, awesome pub, you haven't been yet, but if you go to the Atwater Village Pub from 1 o'clock to 2 o'clock, the Rams cheerleaders will be there. So go there to watch the game. You can meet and greet the Rams cheerleaders, drink some delicious Golden Road beer. Tell them the guys at the LA Football Network sent you. So make sure to check that out. But with that, let's just jump right into it. Jam-packed show. Here we go, a little Rams and Vikings preview. Joining me now on the LA Football Show, here live on AM The Mightier 1090, always on the LA Football Network. One of my best friends of all time. It doesn't matter how long we go without talking. As soon as we get back in the room, it's like old times. Pour the J-Dub, get the fire going, and start the conversation. And I'm super pumped to have him on with me today because our Rams play the Minnesota Vikings, who is my buddy's team. For some reason, we'll get into why. Mr. Mike Wise, what's up, brother? How you doing, man? Thanks for joining the show.
I'm doing fantastic. Thank you for having me. I'm so fired up to be on here. I just got to shake it out. I've been wanting to be on this little pod for a big pod now. I've been wanting to join you for so long. I'm so excited, and especially this week going into Rams versus the Vikings. Yeah. I cannot wait. I'm excited.
So for everyone out there, right after college, we're about the same age. So right after college, I got a job in Sunset Beach, California, for those of you in the Orange County, called Roman Cucina. And this is where I met Mike Wise. We were both servers there. And we used to, on every shift, talk about, this was, 10 years ago? Even more, maybe? Yeah, talk about, we need to do a podcast. Podcasts were just getting going back then. We need to let's just get a microphone, pour some whiskey, sit in a room and get rolling and see what happens. And now here we are, virtually across the country, doing a show together finally.
My God.
So thanks for joining you. But how are things? Christmas is tomorrow. What's going on with the fam and everything? How's things going?
Everything's going really well. We're excited for Christmas. We moved all the way across the country, so we're getting settled in. It'll be a little different not having family around, but it's still going to be Christmas, new traditions. I think that's what we're looking forward to. And I'm excited for football. I'm excited for some football on Christmas Day. That's going to be tons of fun, and everything's going really well. Really well. You just got to be thankful. That's all you could do is be thankful for everything and what you have in your life. So that's how I feel. I feel thankful. Totally. It's a little cliche, but
hey, What's not to be thankful about? So I feel the same way.
I know.
Obviously, us Rams fans are thankful because Rams are putting together a great season right now as they go to their playoff push. And Vikings are an interesting team because some weeks they look really, really good, competitive. They beat our Chargers out here. Some weeks they don't look as good as competitive. But before we get into the game, you grew up in Southern California. You're a surfer guy. You're an Orange County kid. How'd you become a Vikings fan? Tell the people. Why are you a Minnesota fan?
I'm a Minnesota fan because I followed arguably the greatest running back of all time. I'll put up a fight for that. Okay, as
there
you can see over
Georgie's
my
behind
shoulder. You. Yeah, it's my guy. I followed Adrian Peterson at Oklahoma. I'm a Sooner fan, so I didn't grow up with a team. I was one of those who my father just kind of. I think he liked America's team. He liked the Cowboys a little bit. He liked random players, and I grew up a player person. I loved following certain players that I had drawing to, and then at some point in time, it just registered like, look, I'm following Adrian Peterson. He's getting drafted by the Vikings. I'm rooting for the Vikings every single Sunday because I want to see him do well. I want to see the team do well so he could be successful. I thought, you know what? I want to pass down something to my kids. I want them to look forward to a Sunday just like I do. And I want them to have a team that we can all sit together, eat, drink, have a good time, and watch our team play. And so I just said, you know what? I'm hopping on the Vikings. They weren't great. It was probably a good time. They weren't great. They weren't horrible. And so that's how it came to be. I ended up becoming a Vikings fan. I've been since he got drafted. And it's been a roller coaster. It's frustrating at times, of course. I think with any NFL team, it's exciting. When we're a game away from the Super Bowl, we lose to what was it? The Eagles. So it's just it's been a journey. It's fun.
I know you got in as a fan like right after the fun like Dante Culpepper, Randy Moss years. And you had to sit through what, like Joe Webb, Sean Hill, Christian Ponder. But at least you had AP.
I'm almost positive you were at the house when we watched the game where Joe Webb tries to throw the Tebow pass over the line against Green Bay, and it does not go the way it's supposed to. And we end up losing in a playoff game. That was heartbreak city for me. For all of us who was at the house. I'll tell you that.
I was at your house. I do remember that. So
it's so heartbreaking.
But you like so many in LA before the Rams and Chargers were back here, you had to find teams that, didn't, weren't stationed there, obviously, because there were no teams. So I think, and the Vikings fans travel well. They were in LA against the Chargers and had a lot of, skull chants at SoFi. And I was at the game in 2018 when they played the Rams at the Coliseum. One of the greatest games I've ever witnessed. It was a 38-31, I think, final. So Viking fans are plenty. I don't know if you remember this, when your first daughter was born. I don't know if you want me to say her name on the air or not, but anyway, I'll just say what I got you as a gift. Okay. So my buddy's last name is Wise. You named her Penny. So those of you that know Southern California and know Orange County, there's a band called Pennywise. So of course I had to gift you a Pennywise album, but I also got a Minnesota Vikings beanie. So, she had to get ready for her dad's team. Is she a Vikings fan? Is she embracing it? Because that was quite a few years ago.
Yeah, she is. She's a diehard little fan. She loves the Vikings. I think she also loves, the LA teams as well, because I would be rooting for the Chargers. I'm a fantasy guy. I'm sure as we all are, everybody who's listening. Yeah. And so, I got lucky enough to pull Herbert off the wire, the waiver wire last season. And I started following Herbert all last season, just completely just dialed in on every game because I wanted to see how he did. And she started to love the Chargers, and Rams would be like a third team to her. So yeah. All right. She's a big
LA fan.
Number one, Vikings. I told her, hey, look, you can root for any other team after the Vikings.
That's fair. How it goes. That's fair. Yeah, that's something to go in our house too with Mia. So, so you mentioned Herbert, and we'll get to more Rams and Vikings matchup here in a second, but I got to ask you, because at the end of last year, rookie of the year debate, it was Justin Herbert, Justin Jefferson, who's the Vikings receiver. Justin Herbert goes on to win it. I know a lot of Vikings fans, to their displeasure, they thought Justin Jefferson should have won it. I thought both are great players. Both are going to be long-term, phenomenal assets to their team. I think with what Herbert did, breaking similarly every single rookie quarterback record, he deserved it. Yeah. What's your thoughts, though? Should have been Justin Jefferson? Do you think it was fair that Herbert took home the hardware?
For me, obviously, I'm a little biased, but I will be honest, and I think that you got to give it to Herbert just because of the fact that he's leading a team. He is probably the most important position on an NFL football team, and for him to come in and step in and really just go crazy, and put up fantastic numbers and play out of his mind and put his team in a position to win week in, week out. I mean, that's all you could hope for somebody coming in who, I watched Hard Knocks. I think there's a couple episodes where people were scratching their head like, this kid is not who we thought he was going to be. At least that was my takeaway from it. And then here he is. Now he's getting thrown into a game. And was his first game against Kansas City? I could be wrong.
Kansas City. Yeah.
And it there was like, wow, they might beat Kansas City. They might do it. And so, I just thought he played out of his mind. He played as good as he possibly could, especially being a rookie. No offense to Justin Jefferson. I love it. He's my guy. I think he's the second best receiver in the league this year next to your boy Cup. I think Herbert deserved it. Absolutely.
Yeah. That's funny you said that. I was going to ask about carrying on. Now that we get to the Rams, Cooper Kupp or Justin Jefferson.
I'm sorry. I'm throwing different
No,
stuff
that's perfect.
out,
That's perfect because I think I've said many times now in my last 2 episodes, Cooper Kupp is right now the best receiver in the game. Just look at his production, look what he's done, look at Mr. Reliable. But Justin Jefferson is right behind him. I mean, and you could argue Devontae Adams also. But just talk to me about Justin Jefferson. What does he mean to this Vikings team? Because, he is just damn good how good he's been since he's been in the league.
Is savior? Can you say savior? I don't know. I mean, you wonder what is next after we get rid of Diggs. We see Diggs go to Buffalo, and you're kind of just scratching your head like, okay, now Thielen coming off fantastic season. Okay, we're getting rid of Diggs. That's a nice 1-2 punch there on the outside. You have Dalvin, we have Cousins, but you're still wondering. Okay, now Justin Jefferson, fantastic at LSU. I thought he was amazing at LSU. But I'm also looking at the fact that he has, Joe Burrow down there, and you're just wondering how he's going to pan out in the NFL. I'm Sooners fan, so I was a little biased. I was really hoping somehow, some way we would get CD. I wanted Lamb to come. It would just be so nice to just, fantastic. So, at the time, I'm like, oh gosh, how's Justin Jefferson going to be? We might have made the wrong choice, but I think he's been phenomenal. I mean, obviously his stats show it. And I think him and Cousins have something special just right off the bat. Now second season in, it's just like, dude, this guy's playing lights out. And you couldn't ask him to do more. And he's a fantastic route runner. I mean, I love the fact that he's just, I think I was trying to look up some stats before I hopped on here just in case you threw something at me. And I know that he catches a lot of deep balls as well, and which is promising. And so look, and we got Thielen out, and I, as a fan, I'm not worried. I know that we have somebody to pass the ball to. I'm excited. I'm like, dude, I think he's phenomenal. So I'm excited.
He's a special player. And, when Diggs left, because Thielen, as good as he is, and I love Thielen, he's actually one of my favorite receivers in the game. Just his story coming from, Minnesota State, small school, undrafted, and really making a name for himself. But he was always kind of the Robin to Diggs' Batman. So you didn't know how he would do as that number one guy. And then all of a sudden, here comes the rookie, Jefferson, who just lights it up, and he can stay in the same role. And they've really embraced that. And this week, it'll be really fun to watch if the Rams defense and Raheem Morris decides to put Jalen Ramsey on Justin Jefferson mano all game long. Which I think would be the wise choice. No pun intended there. But I have
a hard time though. Look, I'm a little frustrated. I don't know who is to blame. I know Ramsey wants to be the number one cornerback in the league. I have a very hard time. You know the team way more than I do. I just have a hard time with Ramsey and him not shadowing the best receiver. And again, it's probably not him. It's just the scheme of the defense. But what game was it? It was a game recently where I just thought, look, you're going to call yourself the best cornerback in the league. You better go step up and say, I'm guarding this player. There's no ifs, ands, or buts. I'm shutting this player down.
It was probably the Green Bay game against Devontae Adams.
Probably. Yeah, it might have been that game. I couldn't, my mind's all over the place with 4 kids. Forgive me. But, I was just thinking to myself when I saw the game, I'm looking, well, how is this guy going to say he's the best cornerback? But it may not be him, so.
Yeah, it is a scheme thing. It's been very frustrating for fans too, because fans say the same thing. Like we have Ramsey, who is the best corner in the game, and you're not having him shadow these top guys. And since that Green Bay game, because they use him as like a star, they kind of move him all over the field. Yeah. Which keeps it interesting, keeps offenses kind of guessing. He can play in the box, can play deep, can play in the slot, all over the place. He's that talented. Yeah. But when you have these top tier receivers, it's like, you got to just shut that guy down. And so I think after the Green Bay game, Raheem Morris finally kind of said, you know what? Okay, let's adjust things. And, so against Arizona and against Seattle, he was on DK for most of the game. So I think we'll see more of that approach with Justin Jefferson. And obviously if Thielen is in the game, that'll change things too, who's still kind of, lingering to see if he'll play or not. So that'll be a big thing. But we agree with you. We agree with you. Rams needs to be on the number one.
I mean, I just think of it, for a guy of his talent, if you could just not have to worry about potentially putting another defender to guard a Devontae Adams, hey, let's have two guys, one under, one over top, just to double team a guy like Devontae, to say, no, we don't have to worry about spending two people on defense on one guy. Let's just have our best cornerback in arguably the league, defend this guy, and we'll focus in on everything else like as normal. I always wonder that, and I'm not a defensive coordinator, so who am I? But
no, I think we all think that's how
I don't want Jalen Ramsey on Jefferson this week. Let him follow whoever else, Osborne or Thielen.
Right.
All good.
You want Jefferson to have a game like he had against the Chargers when Tevon Campbell was on him. That's what you want to see.
Yeah.
Looking at your running back, because you go from Adrian Peterson, who I agree with you, one of the best running backs ever. And then you get Dalvin Cook. I mean, and I'll just say disclaimer, he did end up pop up on the COVID list. So unsure if he'll be good to go for this weekend, but just overall, what's been your thoughts on Cook? He's been a pretty good back for you guys.
Yeah. I think the only thing that most fans would be frustrated about is health. Obviously, there's always something with him, but when he plays, for the most part, he's fantastic. I mean, he's something to watch. That last game, I think, 2 games ago against the Steelers. Yeah. I mean, granted, I think me or you could have ran through some of the holes in the line there. But, you're thinking, okay, here's the guy who's injured. He's supposed to dislocate his shoulder a week ago, and he comes out. For fantasy, man, I go back to fantasy. It's like I have Dalvin on my squad. I'm thinking, do I start Dalvin? Yeah. He comes out and has close to 200, maybe 200. Yeah. I don't know.
205, I think he finished with. Yeah.
Yeah, and it's a ridiculous game, and he can do that week in and week out. And so I love it. Obviously, coming from being an Adrian Peterson fan to getting Dalvin Cook, you're like, okay, wow, this is awesome. Let's just keep it going. But you look in the other, like Alexander Madison, fantastic as well. I'm excited to see how he does, and he fills in. It never worries me to think, oh man, we're not gonna have Dalvin. I never get to have that feeling, really, and I don't know how other Vikings fans might feel, but the reality is we have 2 great backs, stud backs, and Madison does a fantastic job when he fills in. So I'm looking forward to hopefully him having a great game. I know your guys' D line is fantastic, so we'll see how that works out. But so we'll see how it goes. But Cook is great. Don't want to take away from Cook. Unfortunately, he's on COVID. Hopefully he can make it back. Highly unlikely, probably within the time frame. But I look forward to seeing Madison do well. Those two, I like to say they can be swapped out. Some might argue differently. I really do think that they're pretty much the same back. Very close. There might be more explosion out of Cook, maybe. But Madison's great.
Yeah. No, I agree with you. Madison is good. And that's the NFL nowadays. You have to have 2 comparable backs if you want to be successful. Gone are the days of just one single workhorse back for 17 games. So I think having a guy like Madison is big. And that's one the Rams are going to have to, watch for, who have a good rush defense. They've had a really good running defense, underrated, I think, all year. But when you have a guy like Aaron Donald on there, it's, it's hard to run against. And now with Von Miller and Ernest Jones has really played great as a rookie linebacker. So it'll be interesting to see. Before I get your prediction, got to ask you about your coach, Mike Zimmer. Seems like he's been on the hot seat now for 3 years or so. The Vikings are a team. I tell people this all the time. Every year, Mike, we're going, people are asking me, oh, who's your dark horse teams? Who's your Super Bowl contenders? Every year I'm like, the Vikings are the team that are my dark horse team. They have the talent. Their quarterback he's not a great, but he's a good quarterback. They have a lot of pieces. And every year they finish like 8-8, 7-9, 9-7, middle of the road.
Don't rub it in.
What's up with your boy Zim? Is he around to stay? Or are you guys going back to the coaching search next year?
I honestly, look, there was a point in the year where I was like, let's get rid of Cousins. I don't want Cousins on my team anymore. Let's just drop him. I don't know why I was blaming him. But then now I realize, this is something greater than Cousins. I like Cousins. I'm looking to Zimmer now. I don't know how long he's been with our squad, but the fact that, for the first couple of years, our defense was fantastic. That's at least what we could pride ourselves on, was the defensive scheme that he brought And now it's like our defense, I think we got to be like close to last, right? In regards to defensive stats. And it's just frustrating when you have a coach like Zimmer. I know he's accomplished. He's good. I hate to talk bad about him, but I want him fired. I want him gone. Let's go. Let's get some new blood in here. Not to rant, but another thing is Kubiak's son comes in as our OC.
Mm-hmm.
And I don't know. You're seeing these guys, Pat Shurmur, you see the other guy in Cleveland. These guys, talented guys, are just being drawn away for head coaching jobs, which I respect. I understand. It would be nice to get a good offensive coordinator. It's just not a hand-me-down job because Pops was running the show a year ago or two. He's been with the team for a couple of years. I'd like to see some change because, look, at the end of the day, Cousins is putting up some great numbers. I can't argue with that. And he's consistent. Yeah, like any quarterback who's not maybe in the top tier is going to have his days where he struggles. But he's consistent. He's getting the ball to Jefferson, to Thielen, and we have a good offense. We just need to – I don't know if it's play calling. I don't know what it is. I'm extremely frustrated by – I hate the fact that I saw a stat that I'm sure most of the listeners and yourself saw – where it's like the last 14 out of 15 games, the Vikings have lost on the last play or have lost by like 7 points, just something ridiculous. I think every game we've led by 7 points at some point in time. I don't know who we are. I have no clue. It's the most frustrating thing as a fan because you get up big and it was almost like we're going to lose last game. We got up. We're probably going to lose this game. We're going to give it away. There's no action. There's nothing happening second half. We're going to lose to Chicago. This is sad.
Yeah. Well, and even against Pittsburgh, you guys went up big, and then Pittsburgh comes rolling back. So
if Freiermuth doesn't get decapitated in the end zone, we're going to OT. I just don't understand it. So
I think it's, especially if you guys end up missing the playoffs, I think it'll be time to move on and get a new coach there. If you make the playoffs, it'll be interesting if they decide to roll it back again. But I think it's time to get a fresh thing in there. So. But hey, this game should be a good one. I mean, you guys are fighting for your playoff lives. Rams are fighting for hopefully an NFC West crown and potentially going for that number 1 seed. So both teams are going to be very competitive, very good. Yeah. Who do you like in it? And what do you think that the Vikings need to do in order to win?
Well, gosh, that's a good one because it seems as though your team is so stacked, but there's been games like you've seen where you're just scratching your head. It really comes down to our defense, and our defense. We'll see how they fare against Cooper Kupp, right? I'm hopeful we can match the amount of scoring going on from your offense. I would like to say that we could hopefully at least get 100 yards in rushing, hopefully more. I'd like to see Madison be able to do more. I'm obviously pulling for the Vikings. I'm a Vikings fan. I think we have the ability to do it. Will we be able to close out is my biggest concern because that's basically what's happened. I mean, every game you could look back and say, we've been in that game. Yeah. Most of the time we're in a position to close it out, shut it down, and not allow a team to come back and win. But that's what happens. The team comes back and they win with a field goal or they win on a last drive or in the last 2 minutes, whatever it looks like. But we're not finishing games like we should. And so for this game, that's my biggest fear with a high-powered offense like the Rams, you can't let off the gas. If we get up, not saying that we will be, but hopefully we will. Let's close it. Let's keep it going. Keep calling plays like you're down 14. I don't want to just try to milk it and say, hey, let's just keep our lead. And we don't have a defense to trust. We cannot trust our defense to stop anything. So I'm hoping for the Vikings.
The old adage is, playing not to lose versus playing to win. So you want your team to play to win. Don't play not to lose. Be aggressive.
Please. Let's be aggressive. We have some weapons. Let's utilize the weapons and keep going. Yeah. If I had to put a score on it, I don't know. I would hope that we can maybe go 28-24 Vikings. I'm going to pull for us maybe. It'll still be close.
You have to. Yeah.
I'm going to say 28-24 Vikings. We'll see how it goes, though.
Okay.
We'll see how it goes.
See how it goes. Should be a good. I know. Hey, if you talk to Rams fans are nervous about this game. I mean, this Vikings team scares people just because you don't really know, like you said, what they are. Like some weeks look great, some weeks don't look great. So which Vikings team will we get? Rams need to be buttoned up for this one, though. Same with them. They need to keep the foot on the pedal, no brakes, all gas, and see what happens. But it should be a fun one. And we're
if
looking
we had
forward
a
to it.
defense like you, I wouldn't worry as much. We don't have that.
See,
No offense
Rams
to the
fans,
guys.
you hear that? You hear that? Rams have a good defense. Rams fans out here hate our defense. I'm like, they're a good defense.
I mean, when you have a really bad defense, then you know what is a good defense. I can vouch. I think, once you take the blinders off, you realize, man, this is not fun. Week in and week out, it is not fun.
Exactly.
So, you can hang fast to me being a fan of the Vikings. I fear your defense. You said we talked about Ramsey. We talked about Miller as the new addition, and obviously the big dog inside the middle. So I wish that we had a defense like yours. And I hate saying it because I love, especially from the Cali boys, we got Anthony Barr, we got Hendricks, it's those two were stud linebackers. And I hate to say that they're not, but just something over time. I know they've dealt with injuries, but that's what we could hang fast to, is having good linebacking core. We had a decent defensive line. Everson Griffin's dealt with some issues, and Daniel Hunter's dealt with injury. I just wonder if we could ever get back to that. Obviously, probably not this. I don't think anything switches in the next 3 weeks, but you just hope for a change, because defense to me can be everything. It can literally change your season for the positive.
Well, that's how championships are won. The old adage,
right?
Defense wins championship.
It really is.
So,
when you don't have it, you realize you just can't win without it.
You do. So should be a great game. My buddy, Mike Wise, thank you so much, man, for jumping on. Merry Christmas to you and your beautiful family. And excited to stay connected and stay in touch.
Yeah, thank you so much for having me on, man. I've dreamt of being here, and now we finally get to hang out and do this. And hopefully we could do something like this again. I would really love to join you and chat. It's always fun.
Oh, we
Merry
will.
Christmas to you and your family as well.
Appreciate you. Welcome back to the LA Football Podcast. Thank you all for tuning in. If you still need tickets for games, concerts, events, it's Christmas Eve, so hopefully you're not shopping still, but if you need to get a gift still, what better gift than a gift of a ticket to a game? And go to our friends at TickPick, tickpick.com/LAFB is the link you want to use. You get no fees. Price you see is the price you get. tickpick.com/LAFB. 0 fees. You can buy tickets to Rams and Chargers games, or if you go into a concert. So what better gift to give? If you need a last minute idea, you can go online right now to that link, purchase it, let your loved one, friend, whoever know that they are set for this great event. All right. Big game for the Chargers. I know the Texans are not a good football team, but hey, this is a big one for the Chargers if they want to keep not only their playoff hopes alive, but push for higher seeding, as the AFC is just extremely muddled right now. So let's go ahead and jump into this preview of the Chargers and the Houston Texans. Chargers fans, got a good matchup this week with the Houston Texans. The records aren't good, but hey, it's still football on Sunday. It's still a game the Chargers need if they want to make this playoff push. And joining me to talk all about it is James of Texans Unfiltered podcast on the Blue Wire Podcast Network. You can find him on Twitter at @young_Ari Gold. First of all, I just got to ask you before we get into it, the Twitter handle. I mean, Entourage is one of my favorite shows of all time. Is that like a nickname, or what's with the Ari Gold?
I don't even, it started like 12 years ago. So I whenever I started my first Instagram account, that was like my Instagram, so let's see, I'm 37. So I was, 25, right? Ari Gold's like, to me, one of the best TV characters of all time. I think he's just incredible. It's definitely one of my favorite shows. It is my favorite show. I've probably seen it all the way through like 8-9 times. It's something that we'll just throw on, and once you get started, you can't turn it off. I think it's awesome, but the character itself is just amazing.
He's so good. Did you hear that they're thinking of bringing the show back? Did you hear that?
Yeah. So there's a podcast by the creator Doug Ellen, who
Victory Podcast.
Yeah, the Victory Podcast, and they talk about it. They basically said like HBO, they'll wait until HBO calls them. It sounds like Vince is kind of like off the reservation in the sense of redoing it, but I definitely wouldn't be opposed. It was such a great. It's just a great show. I mean, it really is.
Yeah. I would honestly watch it even without Vince, because Vince was like, I know he was like the main character, but of all the characters, he was like the least interesting. I feel like the show is more about the crew and Ari and Lloyd and all those guys. And Vince was like just the moneymaker, but I would watch it even without Vince. So even if they can't get him back, I think it'd be worth doing. So hopefully they do. I love it. It was great. Did you watch the movie?
Oh yeah. Oh yeah.
Yeah, I thought the movie was.
What'd you think?
I think it got some hate. I mean, it was literally an hour and a half long episode to a sense, but I thought it was still good. Like, it was still exactly what the show was. I don't know why it got the criticism it did, but I don't know. Maybe you're different. Did you like it, or did you? Are you on the other side where it's
fine.
like, yeah?
I thought it was fine. I mean, I just thought it was a 90-minute episode instead. I didn't look at it as like this blockbuster. It's kind of like I'm really huge into Marvel films. I've always maybe it's because I have kids and things of that nature, but like the Eternals and like some of the other bad Marvel movies that people consider bad. I think a lot of times people go into movies with expectations of certain things, or they're always comparing them to other movies, and all you're doing is you're a disservice to yourself, because you can't compare every Marvel movie to Endgame, and you can't compare every Marvel movie to Infinity War and like you just can't, right? So like the Eternals, I thought was actually a really good film. I don't think it was amazing by any standard, but I thought what they had to do introducing 9 characters at one time, and also post Endgame and all this other stuff, I thought it was a good film. So I went into Entourage thinking almost the exact same thing. It was just like, look, this is my favorite TV show. I know it's going to be funny. I know that there's going to be some really good aspects to it, and I'm just going to enjoy the movie for what it is.
Yeah, exactly. That's what I did. And I think one of the big comparisons was like Sex and the City, which, they came out with their movie and it was like a blockbuster hit, and everyone thought Entourage should do that same kind of thing. And it's like, well, I mean,
demographic, right? Yeah, demographic.
Yeah.
I mean, you're appealing to an entire audience of female viewers that are going to drag their husbands to the movie to go see it.
Yeah.
Are you married?
I am, yeah.
Okay, so we don't have the luxury of just grabbing our wives and be like, "Hey, let's go see Entourage together." Not all of us. Not all of us have that luxury, right? So, totally. It's just totally different. I didn't even. Yeah. I've never even seen Sex in the City, so.
Yeah, very different. I have seen it, so. But anyway, Entourage.
Go ahead.
Yeah. So, all right. Well, we'll get into football now, I guess. That's a good transition, I guess, into expectations. I guess is a good way to transition into this Texans football season. 3 wins so far. I would bet to say the expectations probably weren't very high heading into the year once the Deshaun Watson news broke, and that whole thing of he wanted to be traded, and then the allegations and all that. We won't get into all that, but just on the onset for you, what were the expectations of the team? Are they kind of sitting where was expected, or are they even worse than what was the hope at the in training camp?
So I mean, I think. And we can get into the Deshaun stuff if you want to as well. I'm pretty, pretty understanding in that situation. But I think when it came to the season, there were so many different things that went on outside of just that too. Letting go of Bill O'Brien, bringing in an assistant coach for 37 years who's never had head coaching responsibilities or opportunities in the past, and David Coley. New general manager in Nick Caserio. No first-round picks for the last 3 years, I believe. And so, Nick went into the draft with both hands tied behind his back, and then also his, franchise top 5 quarterback just quitting on the team. So I think expectations were low. And then week 1 and the first 2 quarters of week 2 happened. And I think the entire fan base felt somewhat of a, like, okay, look what Tyrod's doing. The defense is better. I think this team could be a lot better than we anticipated. And then Tyrod got hurt. And then just everything from that moment on, just it all flipped on its head. So I think that where we're at now is a fair expectation for a lot of fans. And, there's been quite a bit of positives in a season where, there's not a ton to find, right? It's not like we had first round picks where you'd be like, hey, this guy's something to build on or anything like that. But, we did have a pretty good draft class. You never know how good a draft class is until 3-4 years from now. But, first year impressions are pretty nice to see what we've done with, Davis Mills, a 3rd round rookie quarterback, to Brevin Jordan, to Nico Collins, to Roy Lopez, who's been a starting defensive tackle for us. So Garrett Wallow, a TCU linebacker who just played some pretty significant snaps. So, the team is what it is. They are who their record says they are. But they're also a team at times where, things tend to go right, like they did this last week. And, you squeak out a win in a week where most fans probably would have preferred for them not to.
Yeah, right. I know now we're in the part of the season now where it's draft picks, especially when you're that far down anyway. I want to touch on David Coley, but first, just because you mentioned the draft picks and with Deshaun Watson and everything, and the one thing I will ask about him, I mean, I would assume he's done in a Texans uniform, right? He will not no
100%.
longer play for the Texans. Okay,
Yeah,
100%.
I mean, I can't see a scenario where where everything can be mended. The biggest question is Miami, right?
Yeah.
Tua is playing well. Miami is winning,
Mhm.
and you have to wonder that was the only place he was willing to go. And since he has a
Yeah.
no trade clause, you have to wonder if maybe there's a slight chance that something could happen with the Texans. But I do think he's gone. There's going to be a quarterback needy team out there that's going to be willing to meet the price for the Texans, and he should be gone.
Yeah, I would assume so. Just with everything that's gone on, not just with the team, the organization, but the city, it's he just needs a fresh start regardless.
Yeah.
That
The
being
Texans
said,
do too, though. The Texans need a fresh
yeah,
start.
yeah,
It's not just Deshaun. I think a lot of times people are looking at the Deshaun situation and forget, like, I mean, this guy's basically sabotaged the entire franchise, right? He just signed a 5-year
oh,
extension,
100%.
not but 6 months prior to the kickoff of 2021.
Mhm.
He said a lot of things to the city and fans about bringing a championship and being a leader and wanting to be a part of the city. So the Texans are ready to move on too. I mean, look at the way they've handled it. They've paid him for the entire
Mhm.
year. He's been a healthy scratch. They're definitely doing
Mhm.
right by him in a situation where they probably shouldn't.
Oh, 100%, and I don't think that's getting talked about enough. The fact
I
that they
agree.
are like everyone in the national media is kind of painting the Texans as this bad team before the allegations anyway, about them
Yeah.
holding him hostage and not, letting a player do what they want to do. And any other job field you can move teams, but in the NFL you can't. And it's like, well, okay, he did sign a contract like you mentioned. And so yeah, I phrased that incorrectly, but yeah, I totally agree that the Texans are in due for a new fresh start and someone that wants to be there and wants to be in the city because it is a great city, a great organization in the short time since it's been an expansion team. And so with that being said, Davis Mills, I feel like some games has shown some promise. I mean, the expectations had to be low with him as a 3rd-round pick, but do you see him at this point kind of them trying to make him the future guy, or are they going to probably go back to the draft or even go after a veteran in free agency at that position?
I think I still think there's a lot of time. 3 weeks, definitely need to see a little bit more. I think it's really hard I mean, we've seen it in the NFL throughout the years, right? When it comes to rookie quarterbacks, it definitely takes some time. But I don't know if we've ever seen a situation as bad as what Davis Mills has inherited, right?
Yeah.
Terrible offensive line, um, terrible play calling, and literal zero production from the run game. I mean, we're not
Mhm.
talking about like Mark Ingram was released 6 weeks ago and is still our top rusher in yards.
Yeah.
Um, so that, that
Uh,
that tells you everything, right? So you have to wonder,
yep.
like, how can Davis Mills do if if we move on from Coley, bring in an offensive minded head coach, Pep stays hopefully, and you start to build around him. I think we've seen enough from Davis to think that there's enough potential there to potentially build around him and see what else happens. You also got to think like next year, probably not the best year to take a quarterback, anyways.
Mhm.
As Kenny Pickett and Matt Corral are really the only two that are worth maybe taking in the first round, and we're talking late first round too. We're not talking about top 5 pick.
Yeah.
Um, so it's not a year to take a quarterback. So what else are you really going to do? Maybe bring in some competition for him. Maybe you roll back, with Tyrod, whatever it may be, and see what Davis Mills can do. But you're going to have to change things around him. You're going to have to support him with a run game. You're going to have to get better at run blocking. Pass protection has to get better as well. And then honestly, like the scheme and gameplay, like play calling is an awful situation here in Houston. I mean, it really is. It's just I think by the end of the season, we'll set the record for most wide receiver screens in the history of the NFL. I have to imagine. We're
Mm.
very predictable, and they're not doing anything to help Davis Mills really actually help develop and reach the potential that we have seen. I mean, he's made throws where like, okay, wow, and he's had games. I mean, he went toe to toe with Mac Jones in the sense of, we lost that game, but throughout the
Mhm.
entire game, he was dominating. And that's a Bill Belichick defense who against rookie quarterbacks always thrives, and is
Yeah.
the number 1 defense in the league as well. So um, I
Thrives
think
against
that you've
Justin Herbert.
seen right, yeah, exactly. So you'd love to see what he could do next year, but you have to hope that the circumstances around him change.
Yeah. No, absolutely. And I think that's something that also doesn't get talked about enough is quarterbacks depend, especially young quarterbacks depend a lot on their situation. And we've seen guys that have rough starts to their career, then go on and thrive. I mean, one just right off the top of my head, Ryan Tannehill, had a tough go
Yeah.
in Miami with Adam Gase and then goes to Tennessee. And now he's thriving as a very solid NFL starter. So
Yeah.
I think
Yeah.
circumstance means a lot in this. So you mentioned David Coley, and then we'll touch on him and then we'll get to the preview quickly. But first of all, what do you think of the hire at the time? Because I know at the time it was kind of a head scratcher for everyone. Did it just feel like it was like a safe hire by the GM who was kind of scrambling? And then on top of that, it's a second post question. Do you think he'll be back for year two, or is he a guy similar to what we saw in Arizona 2 years ago that they just move on after 1 year and start fresh again from the top down?
Yeah, I think I'm an optimist at heart, so I always try to see the positives and whatever potentially is going on within the organization or with the team. So, definitely a head scratcher hire, right? Not interviewed by another team, has never been talked about in head coaching searches. So I saw it as, and I saw it like this from the beginning, as just a stopgap head coach. I think, I believe, from what I understand, Joe Brady was the guy until he couldn't speak to Deshaun, and they had no clear understanding of what the future looked like with Deshaun and when they could trade him, which kind of is in line with Stephen Ross and the whole trade scenario in Miami. The deal was going to get done until he wasn't able to speak to Deshaun. So it seems like there seems to be a thing where nobody can speak to Deshaun.
Oh, man.
But so I do think he's a stopgap coach. I don't know if it's this year or next. I would prefer for it to be this year because I think the Texans have a ton of ammunition.
Yeah.
Deshaun is going to get traded, and
Mhm.
a team is going to give up the picks that it takes to get him. If not, the Texans have shown that they're willing to just sit on him, and it's fine.
Yeah.
And you have to think, like, with what Deshaun's put the organization through. When you're messing with billionaires, I mean, we're not talking about like millionaires or day traders. We're talking about guys who have endless fu money, right?
Yeah.
They can do whatever they want. And Cal, the owner of the Texans, Cal McNair, has a lot of it, and I think at this point it's become who's going to bend first, and I don't see the billionaire bending. I think he'll pay
Yeah.
him $35 million next year and 42 the next, and franchise him. After 5 years, like, because at the end of the day, they have full control over where
Mhm.
Deshaun goes and what they do. So, um, I think with that in mind and having Deshaun and having the trade ammunition, potentially, let's say 2 or 3 first round picks plus your first round pick next year. If you trade with the Giants or Eagles, you're getting 2 first round picks next season. So now you have 3. I think your rebuild is accelerated quite a bit. And I don't know if you want to mess with another stopgap coach or if you want to bring in the right guy to be able to develop the young talent and really establish a culture of what you're trying to do in Houston. So I do think he's moved on from at the end of this season.
Mhm.
And I think it makes a ton of sense.
Yeah. Yeah. It obviously a lot more than me, but it kind of just feels like it's very similar to that Steve Wilkes in Arizona situation where it was just, a rough year. Just didn't seem to get a full grasp of, a hold of the organization. They were going to make a QB change yet again, after just drafting Josh Rosen, and they go draft Kyler and just wanted a fresh start there. So it would make sense, I think. Looking at the Chargers, not to try to rub your face in any dirt or anything, but they kind of knocked it out of the park with their coaching hire in Brandon
Yep.
Staley, who has, I thought, been anything but remarkable, or has been remarkable here in LA and what he's done and brought this team to 8-6 and kind of a roller coaster season, up and down some games, but overall a very, very good product and what you can see the culture they're building. What's been the thoughts as we go into this game, just from you, your podcast host, or just the fan base in general, kind of on this Staley coach and on our quarterback, Justin Herbert?
Well, I mean, Staley. So we interviewed Brandon Staley just 4 days before you guys. So for me, it was between Staley and Brady, who I wanted. Staley, not only is he seeming to be a great coach, young guy, also the best press conferences possible.
Oh, yeah.
Hands down in 2021, the best head coaching press conferences go to Brandon Staley. What he's doing with that defense, which, I mean, you guys have a ton invested on the defensive side of the ball. You guys have for the last couple of years. It's great to see. But then when you add the fact that you have potentially, in my opinion, the most talented quarterback in the NFL.
High praise.
I think
Yeah.
I think Justin Herbert is the best thrower of the football in the NFL. Not like just from a arm strength perspective I mean, everything that you're looking for in a quarterback. I know Mahomes gets a ton of praise, and that's fine, and he's in your division. But I think a lot of that has to do with play calling, weapons. I mean, when you have Travis Kelce, like, that just changes the entire, like,
100%.
There's one tight end in the league that can do what Travis Kelce does, and that just changes the entire approach from a defensive perspective. So,
thank you. I've been preaching this forever, so thank you.
so Justin Herbert by far to me is the best quarterback in the league. And what this is year 3?
This is his second year.
Oh, second year.
Two.
Yeah, year 2. So we only have more potential to really reach. I mean, honestly, the way that our defense plays, Tampa 2, cover 2 a lot. Those seams are open quite a bit from the tight end. You guys like to hit those, and I do think that Justin Herbert definitely has a day. And you guys probably walk away with this in a pretty convincing fashion.
So, a couple guys out. Joey Bosa already ruled out officially with on the COVID list. Keenan Hall also ruled out as a depth corner, and then Austin Eckler is on the list day to day. A few other guys on the list day to day. So the Chargers could be a little short-handed. So let me ask you this: what do the Texans need to do in order to pull off a huge upset here against the Chargers, or is there any shot at all? Or you think, regardless of who's out, this is the Chargers' game to lose?
I don't think there's a shot. Just from a matchup perspective, I think it's going to be really tough. You have my favorite wide receiver. Well, you actually have my 2 favorite wide receivers in Keenan Allen, but my favorite wide receiver in the league is Mike Williams, and has been since he was drafted. And I think if the Texans want to have an opportunity, they're going to have to take Mike Williams out of the equation, which I think is going to be a tall task. I don't see a scenario where this defense is going to be able to line up and get after Herbert. We don't have a great pass rush. If anything, Jonathan Grenard and Jacob Martin, our 2 outside linebackers, might be able to apply some pressure on the outside. But in interior wise, we don't have a pass rush whatsoever. And I think Justin's going to have a lot of time to sit back in the pocket and pick us apart.
Yeah, looking at your depth chart, even there's a lot of O's next to those guys. A lot of injuries, a lot of guys out. One guy not, though, at least I could be wrong, but from what I saw, Desmond King, former Charger, was an all-pro here as a special teamer. How's he been with this Texans organization so far?
Yeah, he's been good. He hasn't been as good as I expected him to be. He's definitely had some down moments. They don't play him specifically in the slot, which is a problem. He should be playing only in the slot. He'll line up outside. But we have a pretty good slot corner in Tavir Thomas, who's having a pretty ridiculous year, to be honest. And Desmond's been fine. He's been good in the return game, since we have put him in, but it's inconsistent. He's not always returning. So he was the guy that I thought was going to be a potential gem that we found, that we signed to a 1-year deal that we could potentially sign long-term. But I don't expect him back.
Yeah, he seems to be that kind of guy now that's going to bounce around a little bit. So, well, hey, James, I appreciate the time. It should be a lopsided game, I think, for Chargers fans. The Chargers should have this one in their back pocket, move to 9 wins, push their playoff hopes, continue down the line as they stay in that wild card spot. But hey, any given Sunday, you never know. 10 a.m. kickoff is always interesting for us West Coast teams. So excited to be out there in Houston. But James, thanks for taking the time. Appreciate you. Good luck on the podcast, and hey, have a Merry Christmas and a Happy Holidays.
Yeah, man, you too. I hope you have a happy holidays, and I'll talk to you soon.
All right, big thanks to James. Thank you to my buddy Mike, previewing these games. Big weekend. But hey, to wrap up the show, it's Christmas Eve. What better way to end the show than to talk about my favorite Christmas movies? Got to roll through them rather quickly to meet our time allotment. The Dyrud Dozen. Excited for it. So, coming in at number 12. Christmas Vacation. I know it's going to be way high for some people who have it higher. So that's just my thought. I love it. It's a great movie. I just love Christmas movies. So I have a ton of movies that I was going between. I know most people that have Christmas Vacation on that list, I feel like don't have as many Christmas movies they're cycling through. So Chevy Chase, it's a classic. National Lampoon. I think it's the best National Lampoon movie in my opinion. There's some really good ones. Van Wilder's good, but yeah, for sure. Christmas Vacation, number 12. Number 11, a little deeper, The Family Stone. Great cast, great ensemble there. You got big names all across the board. And it's a great storyline. It has your cringeworthy moments at the dinner table. You know, the scene with Sarah Jessica Parker and talking about the family dynamic and whatnot. And that's one of those, just so uncomfortable that makes you feel it. Like you feel like you're in the room. Like, what are you doing? But, you know, great scenery. It's in a small town. I believe it's in the Northeast. But, yeah, you get the snowfall, love, romance, everything you need in a good Christmas film. Number 10, Daddy's Home 2, a newer Christmas movie. Will Ferrell, Mark Wahlberg, John Cena. It's hilarious. It's just a good, feel-good Christmas movie. They go rent a house up in Big Bear, get the families there, and it's just kind of that fun family American dynamic and lots of laughs. It's a good one. That's my number 10. Number 9, The Night Before. Underrated Christmas movie. Seth Rogen, Joseph Gordon-Levitt, Anthony Mackie. Really funny. I watched this a while back on Christmas Eve. Forever, my wife has always had to work Christmas Eve. So I was like, okay, what's a movie she may not be into that I can get away with watching by myself? Threw that one in. It came out that year. Loved it, and now it's been my tradition. Every Christmas Eve, I watch The Night Before, and it's fitting that it's The Night Before. So if you haven't watched it, check it out. Definitely a raunchier film. I wouldn't say it's a family film. So, you know, watch it without the kids in the room. But it's a lot of fun. Number 8. Gotta have a Nicolas Cage movie in here. The Family Man. For those that haven't seen it, it's he's a powerful businessman on Wall Street. He meets Don Cheadle at a night crossing. I won't give away too much, but basically he gets sent back and sees what his life would have been had he followed his, I don't know if it's college or longtime sweetheart, and if they ended up getting married and have a family. So he gets to see what his life would have been like had he chosen her versus chosen his career. So good. It's a really good movie. A lot of fun. Jeremy Piven's in it as a kind of a cameo. So Family Man, check it out. Number 7, Preacher's Wife. Another good older Christmas movie that maybe not a lot of people know about. Whitney Houston, Denzel Washington. It's a good family. It might be in Detroit. I'm drawing a blank right now, but it's definitely in a Midwest town. I think it's Detroit. But, you know, it's your, you know, he's a pastor, the main character. His wife, Whitney Houston, is, you know, in charge of the choir. Church has come on some hard times. Denzel Washington plays an angel sent down from God there to kind of help them and aid them, but in different ways than maybe they think he's there for. And then it's that dynamic of, you know, actually believing he's an angel and that fun stuff. And, you know, great cast. It's a really good movie. So if you haven't watched it, check it out. Preacher's Wife. Number 6, gotta go Love Actually. Love Actually is making this list. Any Christmas list, it has to have Love Actually on it. Phenomenal ensemble. It was kind of the original of the multi-story narratives that we have out now with, you know, Valentine's Day, Mother's Day, all these different films that have since come out. Love Actually was like the original. So, great film. Hugh Grant, you know, a national treasure over there in Britain. Couldn't say more about it. Number 5, Christmas with the Cranks. Hilarious. Absolutely love this movie. Tim Allen does a phenomenal job along with Jamie Lee Curtis. And just the story of it, they're a big Christmas family. Their daughter ends up deciding to go into Peace Corps and is going to miss Christmas. So they decide to skip Christmas. They book a cruise. So they not only skip Christmas, but they're boycotting everything. They're not putting up decorations, the tree. They're not giving away, going to Christmas parties. Well, then last minute, their daughter decides she's flying home on Christmas Eve. So they have to scramble and, you know, anger the people they angered earlier on in the Christmas season. So it's a really funny, feel-good movie that has a good ending. Number 4, Miracle on 34th Street. It's a family tradition for us in the Dyrud house. We always watch it on Thanksgiving, so it starts our Christmas early. As soon as we finish eating Thanksgiving dinner, pop on Miracle on 34th Street. I know a lot of people will trend towards the original. I actually like the newer version. I know it's not probably as popular, but I just that's what I grew up watching. So you kind of become accustomed to what you grew up with. So we grew up watching the newer one. Number 3, The Santa Claus, Tim Allen. It's just so good. I don't got to say much of it. It's just so good. Tim Allen's one of my favorite actors anyway of all time. Such a good storyline about how he becomes Santa. So much fun. Santa Claus 2 is really good. Santa Claus 3 is really good. They're all really good, but you got to go with the original. Number 2, The Holiday. I love The Holiday. Jack Black, Kate Winslet, Cameron Diaz, Jude Law. Great romance. You get the LA Christmas along with the cold winter British cottage Christmas. mixed into one. Fun storyline. Love the holiday. And number one, I don't know if this will surprise people, not surprise people, but it's Elf. Will Ferrell, James Caan, Elf is so good. So funny, so original. Costumes are great. I mean, Will Ferrell, everyone knows how great Will Ferrell is, but he just plays it to a T. You have so many one-liners and comments that have just lived on from that film and infamy. It's a classic. Elf. There you have it. The Dyrud Dozen, my greatest Christmas movies of all time. Honorable mentions, I didn't put on there. I just got to at least throw them out quickly. Office Christmas Party. Hilarious if you haven't seen it. Really good cast. Another raunchy one, but it is really, really fun. Home Alone. Got to have Home Alone as an honorable mention. I know it's shocking, probably people, it wasn't in my top. But strangely enough, I didn't grow up watching it like a lot of people our age did. It just wasn't the films I grew up watching with my family. So I've obviously seen all of them and watched them and liked them. But that's why it's an honorable mention for me. And Four Christmases. It's actually a really funny one with Vince Vaughn. Anything Vince Vaughn is great. But he, it's basically four different. Both their parents are divorced, and so they have 4 separate Christmases they have to all attend. So that's a lot of fun. But there you have it. The Dyrud Dozen, my favorite Christmas movies. Thank you all for tuning in. That's going to do it for me on the LA Football Show. Hope you all have a very Merry Christmas and happy holidays. Time to spend with friends and families. Please be safe. I know it's crazy out there right now, but enjoy it. We all deserve to enjoy time with friends and family, and give back and do what the holiday season is all about. So, big games this weekend. We'll be back 5 o'clock on Monday on LAFB Network's YouTube to recap the weekend it had, and hopefully get into some Christmas stories that went on throughout the weekend. So, thank you all. Appreciate you. God bless. Merry Christmas. Peace.